You think you know what quiet means. You think it's just the absence of city noise, the highway dying out, the television clicking off. It's not. True quiet. True quiet is heavy. It has a weight. It presses against your eardrums until you can hear the fluid moving inside your own skull. Up there, in the high country, they call them the Poyani, the clearings. The air changes first. You're hiking through the beech woods, the smell of damp earth and rotten leaves thick in your throat. Then, a line. You don't see it, not at first, but the temperature drops 3 degrees in a single step. The wind, it doesn't stop blowing, but the sound of it stops. The pines are moving, their branches lashing against the gray sky, but there's no hiss, no rustle, just a flat, dead space. An acoustic black hole.
Look down at your feet. The grass isn't yellowing like the rest of the ridge. It's dark, a deep, bruising green that almost looks black under the fog. Circular, a perfect ring of scorched, carbonized soil, where nothing but the Lingura zane grows, the fairy spoon mushroom. Pale, damp, and smelling of ozone and wet ash. Your dog won't follow you. That fierce Carpathian shepherd you brought up from the valley, the one chosen specifically to fight off the mountain wolves, he's on his belly, whimpering, tugging at your coat hem with his teeth, pulling you back toward the tray line. He knows what the Bachi, the head shepherd, learned 500 years ago. Some places don't belong to the living. And when they go quiet, you run.
Let's talk about the Siobani, the men who live on the spine of the Carpathians, moving herds through the ancient transhumance routes. They aren't superstitious children. They are hard men, practical men. They deal in the currency of milk, wool, and cheese, the brinza and urda. Their trade is older than the language itself, passed down from pre-Christian ancestors who worked these same stones. They know the math of survival. They know that if a brown bear or a pack of timber wolves cuts 5 ewes from the main flock and drives them across the ridge, you send the dogs. You raise the iron axes. You fight for your livelihood. Except when the chase leads to the silent glade. The moment the livestock cross into that circle, the Bachi calls off the hunt. He drops his staff. He holds the dogs by their leather collars, his fingers dug deep into their fur. He stands on the perimeter and watches his prime milking stock stand frozen in the center. They don't run from the wolves. They don't bleed. They just stare into the empty center of the clearing, their eyes wide, their udders already beginning to turn necrotic with the stricket la uger, the sudden dry curse that ruins the milk vessels forever. They let them die. They watch the timber wolves tear them apart on the bared earth, and they don't lift a finger. Why? Because a dead sheep is a loss of profit. But a shepherd who steps into the hora is a man who never speaks again.
The old texts, the ones the scholars collected in the 19th century, try to sanitize it. They talk about the Iele. They call them the beauties, frumoisele, euphemisms. You never say their true names. To pronounce their real names is to invite them into your life while you sleep. Old stories link them to northern elves or ancient storm spirits. But these aren't the delicate, shimmering creatures of Western fairy tales. These are volatile, airborne storms, nymphs of the air who manifest in numbers of 3, 5, 7, or 9. In the southern valleys, they say they are the 3 immortal daughters of Alexander the Great, who stole the water of life from their father's hidden vaults and drank it down to escape old age. They dance. That is their nature. They descend from the air on hot summer nights, choosing the sacred walnut or maple trees as their anchors. Their feet never touch the grass. They hover inches above the dirt, spinning in a wild, frantic rotation that carbonizes the soil beneath them through sheer supernatural friction. And when they claim a clearing, they lease it for 7 years. 7 winters of absolute isolation. The Bocce respects the lease. If he doesn't, the punishment is Pocire, a swift, brutal warping of the human body, twisted limbs, permanent sensory paralysis. The elders say the Iele will knock the intruder to the ground, break their legs, and put a millstone in their head. That millstone isn't a metaphor. It's the sudden, catastrophic inner ear vertigo that hits you the moment you cross the line. Your balance vanishes. Your knees buckle. The ground feels like it's spinning at 10,000 revolutions per minute, mimicking the rotation of the dance that ruined the dirt. The ethnomusicologists went up there with their field recorders. They wanted to document the tools of the high pastures, the 3-meter buchum made from spruce trunks split by lightning strikes, a thunderbolt tree, chosen because the fire from heaven keeps the mountain spirits from riding the wood. The buchum has no finger holes. It's a pure instrument of breath and embouchure. When a shepherd blows it from a high ridge, the natural harmonic series projects across the valleys, traveling 10 kilometers through the mist to tell the next sheepfold that the wolves are running. It relies on the overtones, the clear, ringing echo that bounces off the granite peaks. But watch what happens when you bring that instrument near a silent glade. The fluer, the short pastoral flute, loses its resonance completely. The women who play the fifa, that ancient flute, use a vocal yodeling technique called howlet to mimic the forest birds. It's an acoustic feedback loop between the human lungs and the wooden column of air. When they stand near the hora, that loop collapses. The performer's voice becomes parched. The timbre dries out. The old people don't look for scientific explanations. They tell you the truth. The Iele are consuming the sound. They are drinking the overtones from the air. And if you keep blowing into that dead space, they will reach into your throat and strip your vocal cords out, leaving you as mute as the stone. The shepherds have a defense system, of course, an apotropaic shield layered around the stunna to keep the air from curdling. They carry pileen, wild mugwort, tucked into their woven belts. They rub their hands and faces with garlic,
before the sun drops behind the ridge, before they sleep in the temporary stone shelters, they paint the windows with crushed hemlock stems to keep the spirits from entering, to steal the sheep's milk or curse the sleeping men. They drop consecrated silver and hot wood coals into the mountain springs, because the Iele bathe there at night, leaving their phantom hair in the drinking water. And at the gate of the sheepfold, they raise the standard. A horse skull mounted on a tall pine pole.
It looks like witchcraft to the tourists from Bucharest. It looks like blood worship. But to the Baci, the horse is the solar animal, the ancient enemy of the airborne, nocturnal forces. When the spirits drift through the subalpine canopy, the sight of that white, skeletal grin forces them to turn their flight path away from the domestic clearing. It keeps the boundary sharp. The modern world struggles with a boundary. The scientists tell us it's just a microclimate. They say the scorched circles are just localized fungal pathogens, or specific thermal inversions where dense layers of cold air trap the sound canopy, creating natural dead zones where Shepard's voice can't carry.
They think that by naming the mechanics, they've tamed the horror. But the Baci understands something deeper. He understands that whether it's a toxic spore concentration or a collection of beautiful, volatile spirits with long, cascading hair, the result is exactly the same. The forest has its own laws. The wilderness requires a tithe. Every 7 years, the mountain demands its silence. So if you find yourself up past the transhumance trails, and the birds stop singing, and your dog drops to its chest, don't check your phone. Don't call out for your friends. Turn around. Leave the sheep to the woods, and pray you didn't leave your footsteps inside the circle.